right, guys, welcome back. This is Nick.
This is Faye.
And this is Creogs Over Coffee. All right, so today we're back with another episode in financial planning health. We're joined once more by Mike Foley. Mike, welcome back to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to break this stuff down with you guys again.
All right, Mike. So you came on before to talk to us about student loans. So what are our new learning objectives for today's episode?
Sure thing. So lots more action in the student loan world, as many of you guys have heard. So learning objectives today are, I want to start out with talking about what this Chevron doctrine is and what it's overturning in the Supreme Court has anything to do with student loans, and really breaking down what is actually law and what is regulation, and AKA, is the PSLF program going anywhere? So that's kind of what we want to start with. And we'll talk about what's happening with the SAVE plan, how those who are on the SAVE plan are going to be impacted for going for the PSLF program. And we'll talk about the PSLF tracker and the new updates on the studentaid.gov site and what that's all about. Talk about this new recent update email that the Department of Education sent out about new forgiveness, talking about if it's legit or not, and then finishing up with some recommended actions to take.
All right. It's a lot of ground to cover, but I know we're going to cover it well today. We'll start off just again, check out our website to find out contact information for Mike if you'd like to get in touch with him or his team, as well as make sure you check out his Lifestyle Creep YouTube channel to talk about that specifically. Again, and for disclosures to start off, we always start these episodes off just noting Michael is a comprehensive financial advisor running his practice out of Scottsdale, Arizona under North Star Resource Group. He was trained at Duke University and holds his CFP, Certified Financial Planner designation, alongside his Certified Student Loan Professional designation. He's the son of two doctors, found a specialty working with those of us in the healthcare space with financial and student loan needs. And he also runs the YouTube channel called Lifestyle Creep, designed to give healthcare workers simple strategies to be more intentional with their finances, live more humbly and quiet lives. Michael is an investment advisor representative of Cetera Advisor Networks LLC, securities offered through Cetera Advisor Networks LLC, a member of FINRA and SIPC. These advisory services are offered through Cetera Investment Advisers LLC, a registered investment advisor. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity, and you can find Michael at 6720 North Scottsdale Road, Suite 290 in Scottsdale, Arizona, 85253. Woo. Okay, here we go. So, Michael, you promised a lot of things in our learning objectives. I am a fan of other podcasts besides ours, including The Daily from the New York Times. And I feel like that's not an endorsement. I shouldn't say that like that. But, they have covered the Chevron doctrine, I think, like 3 or 4 times. And I'm still not sure I totally understand. So why don't you try and help me out a little bit more?
There we go. Yeah, hopefully I didn't overpromise and underdeliver here, but we'll do our best. But so let's talk about the Chevron doctrine. So Chevron, this is a doctrine that's been around for quite some time that they've set legal precedent off of for a lot of different regulators in our government. And so essentially goes back to Chevron, like the gas company versus the Natural Resources Defense Council. And so in summary, what essentially the doctrine that it came, the precedent that it set was that whenever Congress makes a law, there's inherently going to be holes in the law that need to be filled with kind of get extra clarity that needs to be made. And so essentially what this doctrine says is that they allow regulators to fill the gaps with regulations to act like law, to kind of fill the gaps, because they said, hey, us congressmen, we don't really know the intricacies of your world. So let's let the regulators, who this is their world, let's let them drive on that and make those regulations to act as law. But then, essentially what has happened is that these regulators have gotten, quote unquote, too much power, and they're now almost able to create these laws that are so far away from what Congress actually even set, that it's been deemed unconstitutional now. And so now, in order to develop a regulation, or make a change to the law, that actually has to go through Congress or the court system to determine that now. So what does this all have to do with student loans is that the regulator for the student loan world is the Department of Education. So Congress makes the laws on what is allowed for student loans, and then the Department of Education interprets that, fills in the gaps, and develops these other programs, these repayment plans or other additional rules for some of these forgiveness programs, right? So my big question is, now that they've gotten rid of the Chevron doctrine, essentially anything that the Department of Education has put out as a regulation is now up for lawsuit, because typically in the past that was protected under this doctrine, that you couldn't sue based off of something that was a regulator set out as a regulation. But now anything that the Department of Education has come out with as a regulation is up for debate, and so that's up for lawsuit. And so that led me down the rabbit hole of saying, all right, well, what is regulation and what is actually baked into law, right? And so that's something that, I did some casual reading last week to really dive into this, and looked at the College Cost Reduction Access Act of 2007. So this is the actual law that Congress passed in 2007. And then also there's another one that was in 2010 called the Healthcare and Education Reconciliation Act. So in looking in there, essentially two things that are baked into law are the PSLF program and the income-based repayment plan. So a lot of people are asking, well, with this Chevron doctrine going away and all of these different changes, are they going to get rid of the PSLF program? And so to answer that directly is, well, they could, but it would take an act of Congress to get rid of the PSLF program or the income-based repayment plan. And so because that's baked into law, they would have to come out with an entirely new law to do that. But that said, there's a lot of enhancements to the PSLF program or to these income-driven plans that, like the SAVE plan, or like, the PSLF buyback, or, the income-driven repayment adjustment, that they made it a lot easier for people to get access to the PSLF program. Those could be up for contention, right? So we got to really look at it, and really the law says that, to get the PSLF, you got to be on the income-based repayment plan, working full-time at a nonprofit, and you got to do that for 120 months. Kind of the old rules, but we've seen a lot more people get access to that because of the enhancements of the Department of Education. So we'll kind of see how that plays out. But just so you guys know, kind of what is actually baked into law and what is potentially up for debate on the regulation front. But nothing has been attacked on that stuff yet. The only thing that is changing is what we're seeing in the SAVE plan, which we'll talk about as well.
Yeah, so this is really interesting to me in particular, because I felt like, when this came out, I was like, oh, I'm definitely getting on the SAVE plan. It looks great. So how does all of this impact those that are on the SAVE plan who want to go through PSLF?
Yeah, a great question. So, essentially, this is what's happening is that there's been lawsuits that have come out that have deemed various aspects of this new SAVE plan as unconstitutional. And so, long story short, there's, federal appellate courts that, have blocked the Department of Education from actually operating any facet of the SAVE plan. So until they resolve the lawsuits on this, they have stopped everybody who's on the SAVE plan. Everybody has been put into an administrative forbearance. And so this is not like an administrative forbearance like it previously has throughout COVID. This one's a little bit different if you're on the SAVE plan. It's the same in that there's no payment due, which is nice. There's no interest accruing during this time, which is also nice. But the big thing for people going for PSLF, the PSLF program, is that now after July, they're not getting PSLF credit for any months in this administrative forbearance anymore, right? And so that's something that's a big kicker. And so it supposedly came out and said that directly. That's a little bit of a mystery for us. And why didn't they just let it continue to be the case? But my speculation is that one of the lawsuits is about the forgiveness program for the SAVE plan, which has nothing to do with the PSLF program, but the way that it's worded indicates that it could be for any type of forgiveness in the SAVE plan. And so that's probably why the courts are being conservative in that and not wanting to give credit for the PSLF program on that. So then it's kind of, well, what are our options here? If you are going for PSLF and you are on the SAVE plan, it's been a phenomenal plan, but what can we do here? And so there's really two options right now. So either you're going to wait it out or are you going to switch to a different repayment plan like the IBR plan, right? And so the weighted out option, worst case scenario, you're just a little bit farther away from forgiveness until they resolve the lawsuits here, and we can determine what we do next. Best case scenario is we get past this, and then we use the PSLF buyback provision that they came out with to buy back these months that you were in the administrative forbearance that you wish you weren't in those, right? So that's kind of the scenario and the weighted out. The switch repayment plans is something that is one thing that we've been thinking through, right? But right now, all of the online application systems have been turned off. So people cannot even switch repayment plans right now through their online system. And so they said that you can use a paper application and upload that to your loan servicer site, but they haven't even given direction to the loan service for how to process those right now. And so that's going to be an absolute mess if we use the paper applications on that. So, and it might take longer to even switch repayment plans than the lawsuits take to get resolved here. So we're kind of in this holding pattern here. And so I think between those two options, obviously the weighted out is going to be the best play. We don't want to be reactionary here. And, with these new changes, I think the people that are trying to change right now, that's going to cause more headache for them than not right now. And so I think, I have so many clients that are so close to forgiveness right now, and it's so painful that this happened right at the finish line. Right. But unfortunately, it is what it is, right? And this is we're losing some time here, but I don't think we need to uproot our whole game plan just because of this snafu at the end here. I think there may be an option to switch repayment plans, potentially when they do get the online systems back live. There may be a case for switching repayment plans at that point for some individuals, but we got to remember, if we do switch to like an IBR plan, we're capitalizing any interest. So all that interest is getting added to principal, and your payment is likely going to be higher because we have a lot of our clients are based off of incomes from a long time ago. And so we got to make sure that it's really worth it to make that switch and not just sit and wait it out. Okay. So that's kind of what's happening with the SAVE plan.
Oh, good to know, because I know a lot of folks were looking forward to that SAVE plan and now are in this administrative forbearance limbo. Though kind of, I guess, the optimistic part in me from the last 2 points you've made has not pronounced any badness for PSLF. What other kind of programmatic updates are there to PSLF, if there are any?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, that's one thing that you're absolutely right. We haven't seen any, major changes or attacks on the PSLF program at this point. It's really just been solely around the SAVE plan. And so, but the nice thing is that we have this PSLF tracker that tracks how many months you have qualified, and all that was on the Mohella system. And then they transferred that over to the studentaid.gov system back in May and June. And so we were holding our breath to see if that actually went through okay. And it turns out that it did for most borrowers. The new system is a little bit harder to find on the website. You would think that they would put it under the PSLF section of the website, but common sense led them away from that, I guess. And so you have to, you go to your dashboard, and then there's on the side of the page, there should be quick links. And that's the only place that you'd see it, where it says track your PSLF status. That's the only place you can find the tracker on there. And once you get in there, it looks very similar to what was on Mohella, which is nice. But they're only updated through April as of now. So if you see, that you should have more credit past April, that's okay. That's very normal. They just haven't updated anything past that point. And then for anybody who has submitted PSLF forms ever since the transition, so like from May to present, we haven't seen them actually process those forms yet. So again, very, very normal, but we were very happy to see that the PSLF tracker did go live, and it looks to be accurate for a good number of folks. There are still some folks that it's not necessarily lined up exactly how we want to see yet, but we suspect that they're going to be working out the kinks with that in the coming weeks. So probably not something that we need to jump on the phone with them right out the gate, unless you're like at the finish line already, right?
So I feel like there's some good news, there's some bad news. I guess the other question that I have for all this is, I feel like President Biden has kind of sent us a lot of emails about student loans. So what about this latest one that he sent about this debt relief plan? What do we think about that?
Yeah, this one was a little bit of a shocker, amidst all of this chaos with the SAVE plan, coming out. Everyone sees that there's lawsuits coming out. We see the Chevron doctrine come out. Biden's forgiveness plan from last year got shut down in the Supreme Court, right? And then he sends an email out to all of the all the borrowers that are potentially eligible. They say there's essentially four categories that if you fall into, you might be able to get your loans forgiven. Is essentially what they said, and so. They said the first one was really kind of a vague wording, but it says borrowers who owe more than they did at the start of repayment, which is almost everybody, and essentially if you read the fine print of the actual forgiveness, they would just be forgiving the interest above what you originally took out. But that's not how it's worded in the email that they send to you. It's almost very misleading in a way to make it sound like all of your loans are going to go away if you owe more than you took out originally. So I did love that. And then the others are if you've been in repayment for 20, 25 years, if you're past the forgiveness finish lines and haven't applied yet, if you're enrolled in a low financial value program like a borrower defense, or if you went to, like we have some clients that went to Ross University for medical school, and that's one that might be able to try to use the borrower defense to get your money back on that. But that's a little bit scary from my perspective, just because essentially that one is saying that you didn't get the education that you thought you were getting, and so give me my money back is essentially what you're saying. But our question is, what happens with your degree then? Because if you don't have your medical school degree, what happens with that? How are we getting through that? So all these things. There's I think everyone can agree that everyone in the student loan community agrees that there's a very, very long shot of these ever even coming close to fruition, especially since especially due to the Supreme Court's precedent of similar forgiveness plans getting shut down. And so we're really speculating that this is mostly a political move because they do know that the Republicans are going to sue off of this to shut this down, which it's not even a Republican Democrat thing. It probably would have gotten shut down in the Supreme Court anyways, right? But it's going to make Republicans look bad right before voting time is what we're speculating on this. But who knows, right? But it definitely smells a lot like a political move than actually something that I want clients getting their hopes up for.
All right. Well, so I guess, based off of everything that we're hearing here, what would be your recommendation at this point, Mike, in terms of how we move forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that we're constantly navigating. And so I think, at the time of this recording, this is kind of what we would recommend. But I think it's something that it's a constantly moving landscape. And so, perhaps by the time you're listening to this, it might be obsolete, right? But I think it's important that you're staying up to date on this. But I mean, for right now, I think holding on making any big changes during a lot of the movement in this is going to be really prudent for most borrowers. Not being reactionary to a lot of these lawsuits and different things coming out. I think having patience through this so that we can make a more informed decision when we do know what all the options are, I think is going to be really smart. Maybe taking action when the online applications do come back live and really sit down with some to evaluate if that is going to be a good play for you or if you should continue sitting and waiting it out. But this is also just a good reminder that, unfortunately, this is still a debt that we owe, right? And this is something that we want to make sure that we have a backup plan and, kind of working through some contingency plans. So if we can, start building into an investment account, for a lot of our clients that go into practice, we really like to say, all right, hey, we got 6 years, or 4 years until we're estimated to get our forgiveness. Let's see if we can actually save that much money that is going to be forgiven in an investment account. And we've really our team has kind of optimized some investment portfolios to really kind of just not take too much risk, but really optimize it for that that time frame that we're going to use, so that we can have that as a hedge, so that if this whole program, obviously we know now that the PSLF program is likely not going anywhere, but let's say they make it so hard for people to get forgiveness because they hold people to these really stringent rules that you don't want to play that game anymore. I don't want our clients starting from square one and 6 years from now. And so that's something we don't want you putting all your eggs in this basket, financially or frankly emotionally too, because I think there's a lot of emotion that goes into this, and potentially people making job changes around these different forgiveness programs. So and then the last thing is just there are so many changes going on a regular basis that, I would strongly consider, having professional counsel help you through this and help you build through some contingency plans on this, because we're just so great. We work with our clients on an ongoing basis, and I'm so grateful that we decided to do that as opposed to kind of a one-time consult. Because if we just did a one-time consult with somebody last year, the recommendations that we would have made would be wholly obsolete at this point, right? And so making sure that you're, if you did just get a one-time consult in the past, making sure that we're going back to that, and perhaps we'd be happy to sit down with you guys and kind of see how we might be able to help strategize with you, because there's so many changes on an ongoing basis, and you guys need to be focusing on medicine, not on the student loan world. And so making sure you have someone that all they're doing is focusing on this stuff for you to serve you and keep you updated so you can pivot as needed on that. But and then, obviously, with everything going on, it's really kind of a tumultuous time. So, if you have any loved ones or friends that are going through some difficulties and trying to navigate their student loans, we're not charging for initial consult. So, a lot of people we might just connect with and at least point them in the right direction just to help them kind of navigate all this craziness. So feel free to reach out to our team. We'd be happy to help.
Phenomenal. And again, we'll have Michael's contact info on our website, but remember, you can head over to Michael's bio and website at northstarfinancial.com/advisors/Michael-Foley, or you can reach out directly by email, FoleyTeam@northstarfinancial.com. Mike, thanks again.
Thanks again for having me. It's always a pleasure.
All right, guys, that closes this episode. So once again, this is Nick.
This is Faye.
And this has been Creogs Over Coffee.
You can find us on social media on X at CreogsOverCoff1, on Facebook and Instagram at CreogsOverCoffee. And if you want to donate to the show, go ahead and go over to our Patreon at www.patreon.com/CreogsOverCoffee.
You can find show notes for this episode and all of our previous episodes on our website, CreogsOverCoffee.com.
And if you want to reach out to us, have a question about the show, have ideas for an episode or a correction for us, go ahead and email us, CreogsOverCoffee@gmail.com.